Hey folks, Jessica here. So as promised, here is the character spotlight for Grand Cagliostro. Really excited to do one on Cag because I have been waiting for her to get a Grand version for a long time. She is one of my favorite characters. And also, her kit's really interesting. And ultimately, like, interesting character kits are what make this game fun for me. So, like, I love it when a character like this comes out. I think she's pretty powerful. Like, just get that out of the way. Not for like racing or anything like that, because she's a charge attack based character, an OG character, uh, and that's still not ideal for racing for all the reasons we've talked about in the past. It's just the lockout time from an OG build slows you down too much. But for hard fights, I think she'll be great. She'll definitely carry you through a lot of hard fights. So without further ado, let's just jump into her kit because there's quite a bit to talk about. Okay, let's talk about Cag's skills. Cag is light element, her race is human, so technically she's a homunculi, kinda, so I would make the argument that her race should be unknown, which would be a benefit because she would count for more things, but human's fine. Her style is special, and her specialty is staff. Her charge attack, Ars Magna. It's pretty simple. Massive light damage to a foe. Consume all truth levels to boost charge attack specs. So she gets truth from her passives. We'll get in that when we go through all the skills. But basically, it's a stacking buff she gets on herself, and the more of it she has, the harder she'll charge attack. Wiki now has numbers on that. At one stack of truth, it is 30% extra charge attack damage and 20% charge attack damage cap up. At 8 stacks, it's a huge bonus, like sky high bonus. It's 240% charge attack damage up and 160% charge attack damage cap up. That is a really large buff. And it's not the only charge attack buff she gets, too. So, like, if you manage to get her to 8 stacks, which might be a little tricky, she'll blow the thing's face off. You want to do a lot of damage with one Ogi just for, like, the sake of high numbers. She's your gal. Let's talk about her first skill, Ars Gloria. Ars Gloria, 0 turn cooldown. All light allies gain Eternal Ouroboros, can't recast. Brief, right? Well, what does Eternal Ouroboros do? Turns out a whole lot. It is double attack rate boosted, triple attack rate boosted, charge attack damage boosted, charge attack damage cap boosted. Hold on for this one. Maximum amount of damage that can be dealt per charge attack to foes who cap charge attack damage is boosted. Charge bar gain is lower. The last one is penalty. So let's break down the specific numbers of all that. But I want you to note something here. Can't be removed, so this cannot be dispelled. Duration indefinite. That's important because this has 100% uptime. That is exceedingly powerful, and it's team wide. Those things together, keep those in mind when you look at the specific numbers, because the fact that it has, I cannot state enough how powerful the fact that it has indefinite duration is. So what are the numbers? It gives you 100% double attack up. Now, normally, you've heard me say this before, I don't really care about double attack rate because boosts to it here and there are not really that big a deal. But 100% for the whole team that lasts indefinitely, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's not bad. Like that, you'll never single attack. No one on the team with this buff will ever single attack while they have this buff on. That's pretty nice. 30% triple attack up. That's a pretty big buff, and I feel like some context is important. Because if you watch my other character spotlights, or you're familiar with the meta characters in Granblue Fantasy, it's fairly sought after to have 100% triple attack rate. There's a whole bunch of characters at this point that have it indefinitely or have it for a brief period of time. So, like Predator, Ray can give someone 100% triple attack rate. Holly Maya can give herself 100% triple attack rate for a brief window. There's ways to get it. And typically, they're what you really want from a meta character. However, Light does not have an abundance of those kind of characters like, say, Dark does. So this triple attack rate buff is still pretty significant in Light. And then another thing to keep in mind is those characters I mentioned, Predator, Ray, Holly Narmaya, etc. They can get themselves a 100% triple attack rate or give someone else a 100% triple attack rate, but it's usually only themselves or another character. This is the whole team. So those two things, together with the fact that this is 100% uptime, makes this data buff actually way more potent than you might initially think if you've gotten really into the 2021 mindset of Granblue. I almost said 2020. The 2021 meta where like you like expect triple attack on everybody. That is big. Because if you look at traditional data buffs, it's usually something like, 30% triple attack, and it's like 3 turn duration, like 7 turn cooldown, 8 turn cooldown. It's like at best usually like 60% uptime, 50% uptime. This is 100% uptime. You'll always be up. So that uptime changes changes the calculation completely. 100% charge attack damage up, 50% charge attack damage cap up. And then the second to last one is weird. Not gonna lie, I don't fully understand this. 30% special charge attack damage cap up. So that was the really wordy thing I said. Maximum amount of damage that can be dealt per charge attack to foes who cap charge attack damage is boosted. And then if I mouse over it here, the special charge attack damage cap is usually 6.6 million for impossible contents. The value varies between quests and raids. I'm not quite sure what they're talking about here. If anyone has some clarification on that, just let me know down below in the comments. I don't want to theorize on what this actually means because, like, I don't want to lie to you. Uh, but on the surface, it's just bonus. On fights that have a cap like this, then you'll do more damage. So it's all upside. That's all you really need to know. And then this last one, 35% charge bar gain lowered. So like I said, this is a penalty. And this kind of hurts actually, because Kag is a charge attack character, an Ogi character. You put her on an Ogi team because she has a team-wide Ogi buff, and that's just generally how she's meant to be played. But this is completely contrary to that because it means you Ogi less because your charge bar goes up slower. This fact we'll talk about more when I get into like team comps. This fact means there's certain characters you'll want to run alongside Kag. So she's not as much a character you can just put on any team and she'll be great. You really do want to think about certain team comps when you use her. And the one that jumps immediately in mind is Grand Noah, because Grand Noah's charge attack gives 30% charge bar gain up, which mostly counteracts that charge bar down on Kag. You run classes like Lumberjack with Leaf Burning, I believe, will also give you some amount of charge bar gain up. You want to just counteract this in whatever way you can, because it is a rather sizable hit to how fast you build charge bar. But if you do have Grand Noah works great with Kag. And there's other choices, it's not just Grand Noah. Let's talk about the rest of her skills. Kag's second skill, Endymion. Ready in 40 turns. It has a 40 turn ready time. You can cut that ready time. We'll talk more about that in a second, but let's just talk about what it does. All light allies gain instant charge, so they'll get full charge bar. They will get auto revived, can't be removed. The auto revive cannot be dispelled, and it will end the cooldown for all light allies skills. So essentially, it is the Huanglong summon and the Quillen summon in one. It gives everyone instant charge bar and resets everyone's cooldown, and then on top of that, gives everyone auto revive. So it's a very powerful effect. Now, 40 turns. Let's talk about that. Let's jump down to her passives. True Enlightenment. When a light ally uses a charge attack, 1 turn cut to Endymion's skill standby. Raise proof level by 1, max 8 stacks. So this is how you get proof levels to boost her charge attack, but this is also how you get Endymion's ready time down to a reasonable level. Realistically, it's not going to ever be 40 turns. It's going to be more like 17 to 20 turns for most teams before Endymion's ready to cast. That's still a long time. It's still only something you use in long fights, and I think that's the thing you'll notice when you look at Kag. She's more for longer, harder fights, not for quick farming fights or for racing. But yeah, it's gonna be usually about, call it 17 to 20 turns. And to be fair, effects like auto revive, you don't really need them immediately. And the instant charge bar is going to be good when you get it. And also, you can plan around when you reset everyone's skills. So, very strong skill, but yeah, it's for specifically long, hard fights. Okay, Pinnacle of Geometry is Kag's third skill, and there's some weird nuances here that we'll talk about. But base level, it has 11 turn cooldown, has a 1 turn, 6 turn duration. It's split because there's a bunch of different effects, and one of them has a 1 turn duration, the rest have a 6 turn duration. Inflicts can't act, we'll talk about that in a second. 100% double attack down, 100% triple attack down, and accuracy lowered on a foe. So 1% double attack down, 100% triple attack down, they're single attacking you. This can save you a ton of damage on enemies that do a shit ton of damage if they multi attack you. And then accuracy lowered is basically fancy blind, gives attacks and special attacks a chance to miss. So all the stuff saves you a lot of incoming damage. All that's great. Can't act is the weird part of it, because we've seen effects like this before, but there's some weird rules with Kag's version of it. So, can't attack. Let's talk about the details of how Kag's version works. I want to take a second to highlight the fact that Pinnacle of Geometry is the perfect Cagliostro skill, in that it completely fits her characterization within the lore of the game. In that it breaks all the rules. There's a bunch of things in the game that function a certain way for everyone else in the game, but when Kag comes along, Kag doesn't care. Kag breaks the rules. What do I mean by that? Well, Pinnacle Geometry inflicts Can't Act. Can't Act is guaranteed to land regardless of debuff resistance. What does that mean? Fast effects like Immune or 100% debuff resistance cannot prevent Pinnacle Geometry from landing. They just can't. Concrete example. The 6 Dragon Advent Black Raid. Fidel. He is normally 100% immune to debuffs for all intents and purposes. You can't debuff him. It's kind of his thing. In comes Grand Cagliostro. Grand Cagliostro doesn't give a shit that that's Fidel's thing. If she wants to inflict Can't Act on him, she will inflict Can't Act on him. Same thing for any other thing in the game so far. There might be an exception, but I don't think it's been found. There's an exception that's been found yet. Pretty much anything like that, Hag will blow right through their immunity and make it so they can't act. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what the situation is, she can inflict it because she's Kag. So that's the first part, but that's not the only place where it breaks the rules. Let's get into the rest of it. Those afflicted with Can't Act can't take any action, which includes normal attacks, special attacks, and omens. Let's break that down. So they can't normal attack that turn. They can't do anything that turn. They just sit there for a turn. That's not that crazy. There's a bunch of other ways to get that effect from various sources, paralyze, etc. But it does stop a normal attack. Omens. It doesn't cancel the omen, but Pinnacle Geometry will effectively delay the omen. So if the omen's about to go off, you cast Pinnacle Geometry, it won't go off that turn, but it will still carry over into the next turn, at which point you need to either cancel it through its legitimate cancel mechanic or let the omen go off. Special attacks is where it gets weird, because once again, Cagliostro gets an exception because Cagliostro is exceptional. Special attacks can't be cast even if they would normally bypass status effects like Twilight Terror, Skyrending Lament, and Stared Stiff. So those are very similar effects from Dark Angel Olivia, Tiamat, and Medusa, respectively. Like this Twilight Terror effect from Dark Angel Olivia says charge items don't fill up, can't use special attacks. If you use these on a trigger, what ends up happening is, like, say the boss has a 75% trigger, use it if those effects are up, the boss won't use the trigger at 75, but when they wear off, the boss will use it the next turn. But certain effects will pierce through these completely. Anything that would pierce through or paralyze will just ignore these effects and go off. Not so with Pinnacle Geometry. You cannot just ignore Cagliostro. No one ignores Cagliostro. Uh, you cannot bypass the can't act effect from Cagliostro, even if you would normally bust right through a paralyze. So that sounds pretty good, but let me give you a couple concrete examples that might blow your mind. So there's been a few that have already been discovered, but there's likely more that people haven't really played around with yet. The big one. I think a lot of you at this point are familiar with Lucilius HL, but if you're not, the Lucilius HL fight, Lucilius Impossible, has this mechanic called Grand Finale Countdown. It starts at 6. It's a timer, basically. It starts at 6. Anytime any character on anyone's team in the raid, it's a 6-man raid, dies, it decrements the counter by 1. So remember, it's a 6-person raid. So anybody loses anything, kicks that thing down. It's one of the most common things that ends the raid. So when that hits 0, on the next turn, Lucilius will attempt to use the end. The end kills everybody. It kills your front line, it kills your back line, it ignores auto revive. It's the end. It's the hard stop for that fight. There is only one person that can stand against the end. Cagliostro is the only person that can stand against the end, that can rage against the dying of the light. She is metal AF. Because if Cagliostro is on the field and Grand Finale Countdown hits 0, on the next turn, Lucilius would normally use the end. Cagliostro can stop the end because if she uses Pinnacle of Geometry, Lucilius will hit that turn where he would use the end. He won't use it. He won't do anything that turn. And then the next turn, he won't try again. He only tries once on the turn after it hits 0. So she stops it on that turn. On the next turn, he won't use it. There's tons of videos on YouTube and on Twitter showing this, so I'm sure you can find one if you're curious to see what that looks like. Similarly, Ultimate Biomet has this mechanic, Reason's Transcendence. Basically, he gets like, I think it's 7 charge diamonds, and if you don't burst him down low enough before those diamonds fill up, then Reason's Transcendence goes off, knocks out everybody front row on your team, everyone back row, ignores auto revive. It's the same thing as the end. Same deal. Cagliostro transcends reason and can stop this with Pinnacle Geometry. Power of math. That's why you should stay in school, kids. So, assuming that those interactions are intentional, and I have no reason to believe they're not. Assuming they don't get patched out, I have no reason to believe they will get patched out. That is at once super exciting and also kind of worrisome. It's exciting because it's a complete game changer. It means there's going to be fights that CAG alone can break in very unique ways that will change the nature of how those fights work. It's concerning because it's going to break some fights. So we'll see. The reason I'm not inclined to believe that it's a mistake and that CAG will get patched and watch her immediately get patched after this is because they already patched her once. Because her Ars Gloria, I believe, used to be a minus 50% charge bar gain rate. Now it's minus 35. So they actually lowered the intensity of that penalty. So yeah, Cagliostro breaking all the rules. She makes the rules. Pretty deceptively powerful skill with Pinnacle Geometry. The last skill I talk about for CAG is her final passive. You just plain can't beat Cagliostro. Turns out that's true. When a light ally casts a buff removing skill, so a dispel type effect, and has to be cast, so a dispel that comes off of a charge attack like fronts, fifths, does not trigger this. But whenever a dispel type skill is cast, deals 880,888 plain damage to the foe, inflicts delay, raises Kroof by 1 level, maximum 8 stacks. Kroof, again, is the stacking buff that will make her charge attacks hit really hard. So this is a really good passive because it essentially upgrades any dispel from any of your characters, including main character. So automatically, that dispel type effect is going to get an extra almost 900,000 plain damage added to it. That is nice for extra damage, but also for fights like Lucille ACHL, it does mean you could potentially clear the labor where you have to deal 2 million plane damage with just Tag's passive and a few dispels. It would take 3 dispel type effects. But I think the bigger part of it is it upgrades all those dispel effects, like Granvira's dispel, like who else has a dispel? Like Clarissa's dispel. Anyone with dispel, it upgrades it into a delay as well as the dispel. And that's significant because light actually doesn't have a lot of ways to get delay. And also because it basically turns all those into whatever they normally do plus a delay, it does set up scenarios where you could probably actually loop delay and just permanently stop a boss from building enough charge diamonds in order to charge attack. So that's really strong. Like, that's a huge utility upgrade for difficult fights where you want to constantly delay. But yeah, that's all Kag's skills. Let's talk about her in practice. So, after looking at her skills, you might be inclined to think that Kag is super powerful. And you would be right, she is. That is absolutely an accurate read on her kit. But she's not one of those characters where you can throw her on any team and expect her to do amazing. You really want to build around her. You want to bring other characters that can counteract some of the negative parts of her kit and really benefit from her passives. So, what do I mean by that? Specifically, Ars Gloria is a hugely powerful buff, has 100% uptime, but remember it also has this huge penalty, a 35% hit to charge bar gain rate, and that also has 100% uptime. That's a large hit on any team you want to charge attack a lot on, and guess what? If you're running Kag on a team, that team wants to charge attack. So there are various ways to do this. The one that I used in my example is Noah. Grand Noah gives you a 30% charge bar gain buff on his charge attack, on his Ogi. That almost completely offsets this penalty. You could also run Lumberjack on main character. I think is it Christmas Lily? I think has a charge bar gain rate bonus. Amira has a charge bar gain rate bonus. There's various ways to offset it. Look for one of those ways of offsetting it because you don't want to just take the 35% hit and just keep it because like that will significantly slow down your damage because you just won't be able to charge attack enough. And then the other thing is you want characters that have buff removing skills, dispel style skills. So, I mean, the super obvious one is on main character, take dispel. Like for a lot of hard fights, it makes a lot of sense to have a dispel. But if you take out main character, then your main character now has a dispel, now has a nuke, and has a delay, all rolled up in one, and it's gonna buff Kag. But then other characters that have dispels. So here, this is a team I've got right now. So Noah has a dispel. Noah's actually Grand Noah is the perfect character run alongside Kag because Noah also enables you to charge attack more. So like in every way synergistic with Kag, Noah is also very good for fights where you want to bring a more defensive team, very hard fights, and Kag is a character you want to bring for very hard defensive fights. So you kind of see how these all synergize together. But in addition to Noah, who has a dispel, Granvira also has a dispel. Her 2, Blade of Light, removes a buff effect. These all count for Kag's passive. And guess who's another character that you often bring to very hard fights? Granvira. Characters that another character has a dispel, like Clarice. She has a dispel, and in addition to that, she is a charge attack centric character, so she will benefit from being lined up on Kag's team. I believe other examples are like Melissa Bell, Valentine's Melissa Bell specifically, coming up on the next banner, by the way. The next Valentine's banner. Who else? I think Light Percival, the maids. There's a whole bunch of characters that have dispels. Just look up any character in Light that has a dispel, and there's some argument you can make to taking them on the team with Grand Cag. But yeah, I think of all those, like Grand Nose, the super obvious one, Granvira is another super powerful one, and then like Clarice, I think, are the 3 most solid like dispel like characters can bring the spell. Now I've got Jean here because keep in mind, that gives you a really sizable boost to your charge attack damage cap. depending on what your grid is, you might have trouble actually reaching that new cap that she raises you up to. So characters like Grand Jean, are really good because Grand Jean can help you get to that cap. Similarly, Twain Song is another good one to bring. Hao Mao, Io, all these characters that can give themselves pretty sizable buffs or give your team sizable buffs will help you get the most out of that cap up. So yeah, I think a thing you might immediately notice is most of the characters, almost all the characters I called out are limiteds. They're all grands, they're all, or they're seasonal. That is gonna be one of the things to keep in mind with CAG. She does work best with a lot of these characters, a little bit harder to get. And I mean, Granblue has kind of slid in this direction where the strongest characters in game are limited anyway, so I guess that's not hugely surprising, but it's a thing to know. In addition to just getting the right characters to go with CAG, you also want to try and make sure that your grid maximizes on charge attack damage, because charge attack damage is what CAG does best. It's what CAG allows you to do better than if you didn't have her. So any of the stuff you would normally use in an Ogi build, like Certificates, one of the best charge attack weapons for light. Other options, you can look at CAG Staff or Ouroboros Prime, which you'll have if you have CAG, obviously, is pretty good. There's various options. But yeah, before we jump into actual gameplay, this is what I'm running. As you can see, everything's max level, max skill, max uncap. The Dark Opus weapon has, I believe, a charge attack damage cap up, obviously, on it. And it has stamina, as it's, the pendulum on it is stamina. So that's the weapons I'm running, and then these are the summons I'm running. All fairly standard stuff. And yeah, let's just jump into some gameplay examples. Okay, I wasn't quite sure what fight to demo on, so we'll just start with like a full Ogi team that's pretty well geared and set up, and like buffs and all that stuff does on a Liganoid. So let's blow this thing's freaking face off. So everyone's got CAG's buffs, they got their buffs, CAG's got 8 stacks of truth. Gives you an idea of like potentially how much damage you could do. And pretty chunky charge attack. I'm really curious how CAG is gonna hit though. An 11 million Ogi, nice. Yeah, when she gets full truth stack, she really cranks out the damage. But okay, we'll do an actual fight now that we've beat up the Liganoid. Okay, I don't usually like to use these fights for showcases since they tend to take a bit, but we'll go ahead and do it. Grab a Zeus and dive right in. So, a thing to keep an eye on for this one, since it's going to be a longer fight, and this is exactly the kind of thing you want to use CAG for, is this 40 turn ready time. So, we'll look at how many turns we actually get in before it cools down. I predict, again, around 17 to 20 turns, depending on how often you charge attack. So let's just get all our stuff up. Also, bear with me, because it's been a hot second since, well, I haven't done Avatar manually in a long ass time, and also, I haven't played with Noah much, so we'll learn together. I also used those skills in a completely wrong order, but it's fine. Gotta use Laughing Logger first. It's fine though, it's fine. You guys didn't see anything. I know what I'm doing. Like I said, still getting back in the swing of Granblue, so a little sloppy, it's fine though. You know it's fine when you say it's fine over and over. That's how you know, that's how you make it fine. So remember that now, any of these dispels become a nuke and a delay, in addition to being a dispel, in addition to boosting CAG's truth levels. Trying to think if there's anything in Avatar that specifically delay with Pinnacle Geometry. I think I'm just gonna use Pinnacle Geometry now because there's not like any crazy trigger like the end or Recent Transcendence. So we'll just go ahead and debuff him. Because the thing with, and the thing to know about Pinnacle Geometry is it's got some very powerful cases where it breaks the game, but it's got some limitations also, because thing to keep in mind, whereas Ray's 3 prevents all damage return, so if the enemy builds up to full charge diamonds, and they're about to use their charge attack, use Ray's 3, and it turns all the damage to 0, and lets you basically reset the charge diamonds, because the charge attack will go off and just won't do any damage. Nice charge attack right there. Cag, nice Ogi. But the thing with Cag is Cag stops the action for a turn, so it won't empty the charge diamonds. It will just buy you another turn. Things like the end and Reason's Transcendence are a little bit different, because by delaying them for a turn, you kind of basically bypass how they're supposed to work altogether. And yeah, if I wanted more delays, I'm running Jeanne d'Arc here, Grand Jeanne, because Grand Jeanne d'Arc kind of the opposite of Cag. Where Cag wants to be on a very specific team to really excel, Jeanne is one of those characters. Grand Jeanne is one of those characters that you can put her on any team pretty much in Light, and she'll make the team better. She'll excel pretty much on any team. So that's kind of the difference between the two of them. But yeah, if I wanted like more delays, I could run like Clarice here instead of Grand Jeanne. Then I would effectively have another spell, another delay, and I'd just be able to change like loop delays on this guy. But I'm not gonna worry about that. It's fine. We don't need to get to that level of obnoxious. I've not been tracking how many times I've charge attacked, but I can figure out real fast. And yeah, if you don't have Grand Noah, you don't have like Light Clarice, if you don't have Grand Vera, if you don't have like any of the characters you would want to run with Cag, then yeah, legitimately that does make Cag less exciting, because she really benefits from some of those teammates being present. But if you do have the right characters to make a good Cag team, then I think she's definitely a great character. For hard fights or for soloing, I would not recommend her for trying to race, just because by the nature of being Ogi oriented, Ogi teams are just too slow for racing. Like, that's still the case. They kind of need to do a fundamental rework of how, like a fundamental top-to-bottom rework of how Ogi lockout works, in order to make Ogi teams a little bit more competitive in a racing context. Am I on turn 10 yet? Real quick. What turn am I on? Turn 8. I just want to see if this would like make someone double charge attack yet. So by the way, we're on turn 8. It's got 24 turns left, so yeah, we've significantly cut down that time. But yeah, I wouldn't use her for a racing team. I wouldn't recommend, like, if you've got all the other really good light characters, then I'm not sure I really would recommend her for just general farming either. I wouldn't recommend light in general for general farming. I would recommend light mostly for harder fights, just because it's not as fast as some of the other elements. But if light's your main element, then then go for it. You could use her legitimately if you're trying to do something like farm a staff with a minion, for example, on Anubis, where you pretty much just join, and then you use Huanglong, charge everyone's charge bars, and then use a skill or two, and then go, and then that's basically, by the time you do that, the fight's over. Like those scenarios where you're just jumping in to charge attack, or during strike time, if you're farming stuff during strike time, then Cag's great, because Cag gives such a large boost to charge attacks for everyone on the team. So like those are the two scenarios I would really say Cag excels: hard fights, or for like just jumping in and bursting something real quick with charge attacks. Can't remember where the triggers are on this guy. I think there's a trigger at 50, at 25, and there's a big one at 10. This team setup's really safe because, like, by the time I get to the 10% trigger, which I think is like 99 mil to everybody, Endymion will definitely be charged by then, so like I can just auto revive against it. But I also have Noah, and Noah can just like prevent the damage. So like there's various ways, but this is a really solid, safe setup. Like you've got a lot of tools here. You got dispels, you got delays, you got damage cuts, you got auto revive, you got heals, you got everything really. And you'd probably even get more utility if you swapped out Jean, who's mostly just here to increase damage. I'll go ahead and delay ya. I love that when she's charged up, her scarf billows like that, and it looks like angel wings. Like, doesn't that just look... I mean, I'm pretty sure it's intended to look like angel wings. It's a nice effect. But yeah, in terms of, like, do you need to run out and spark Cag right now? I mean, if you like Cag, do it. Go for it. She's certainly worth it if you like her. If you're looking, like, if you don't pull a lot and you're just looking for a meta pick, or for, like, a pick for, like, racing or farming, then I'd say she's less of a priority. If you're trying to build a team specifically for a hard fight, then she becomes more of a priority. It really depends on what you're trying to do, because she's not a character that's universal, I guess is the way I would put it. She's good for the fights where she really matters. And she definitely makes fights like soloing fights like this a lot easier. Some small things some small nuances you might not notice also. Remember that her skills can't be recast. So in a way, that's actually kind of a great bonus because it means for full auto teams, and that's another place she's good on a full auto team. She'll only cast her once, and then once she does Endymion, which is going to be on cooldown for most fight anyway, she won't repeatedly try to cast the same skills. So it will make your full auto a little faster. But on the flip side, one downside is her buff, Ars Gloria, can't be recast, which if no one dies, that's fine. But if someone dies, you're not going to be able to apply Eternal Ouroboros to the person that steps up after the enemy dies, after your teammate dies. How many truth stacks are you on, girl? But yeah, like this is as smooth as can be. I'm pretty sure that like it'll be no problem to pretty sure it'd be no problem at all if I wanted to just full auto this, but I'm not gonna. Because we're having chats with Jessica. Oh, you guys like chats with Jessica, right? Other things to consider, you do really want a grid that boosts Ogi, because I mean look at how many Ogis we're throwing just regularly here, which kind of makes Cag a little bit better, I think, in a primal setup, because primal setups have certificates. They have Ouroboros, or now they have Ouroboros Prime. And there's also like, was it Ruler of Fate? Zoe's gun. Like, what else is there? Those are the ones that jump to mind. Primarily certificates is the one that jumps to mind, but things that boost Ogis. I cannot think of what Magna options there are for boosting Ogis in the same way. Let me know down below if I'm missing some really good Ogi boosting weapons in Magna. I can't think of any that are regularly run, but there might be. I'm not as familiar. I'm not as brushed up on Magna Light. Oh yeah, we're just continue to beat this guy up. This is why I don't usually do these fights in these demos, because like, I mean they're fun to watch, but it requires me to just fill like 15 minutes. Okay, so Endymion's now cooled down, so that's great. So I guess what I'm gonna do is just use it now because it's gonna reset everyone's skills. I'm not gonna just, I mean, I guess, interesting. I was debating whether or not I just want to use the delays in order to, I probably should have saved Noah's 2, but it's fine. I was debating whether or not I should use my, I did it again, where I didn't use left logger first. I was debating whether I should use Dispels in order to charge X proof level, but it's fine. I don't really want to waste the delays because obviously it actually use them on something. Oh, I forgot to check. I'll check after this. Well, we'll find out. I forgot to check what turn that was. Because remember, we started with a 40 turn ready time on Endymion. So we'll find out when it shows the turn counter for this turn. Get him. Yeah, nice try. Turn 19. So yeah, it took 18 turns to get Endymion ready. So that's roughly what you can expect from a team that charge attacks fairly regularly. Which is pretty good, not gonna lie. Let me just use on Cag. I wonder if it's best to use Noah's instant charge on Cag or on a different character. I do feel like the double. I do feel like the double. No, I do feel like they need to look at how Ogies play in the overall the overall racing side of the game. Because it's kind of like Ogies are cool. Ogies are fun. Ogies are very visually appealing. Like they look awesome. I like Ogies. Um, but you're inclined to skip charge attack animations for one, uh, and also because like they take so much time that you just want to skip them. But also they incur lockout for racing, which makes them just really terrible, honestly, for any situation where you want to race. By the way, so there's a 25% trigger, which is Doomsday. I delayed it with Pinnacle Geometry, so that's why I didn't go off that turn. I believe it will go off this turn, because it just pushes it back a turn. The reason why the end gets stopped is because the end doesn't try to trigger again, because of just specifics about how that works. Same thing with Recent Transcendence. But yeah, it's like, I feel like if you're trying to play efficiently, you kind of hate Ogies. So, well, you don't hate them, but you kind of want to, you're disincentivized to actually watch them, whereas watching them is kind of a cool part of the game. It's like, if you play Fate Grand Order FGO, there's the Doomsday. Huh, pathetic. If you played FGO, no Phantasms in Fate Grand Order have awesome animations. They are gorgeous. They look so cool. Like, if you've never looked at FGO, just look up some Noble Phantasms. Just, I don't know, just YouTube Noble, like, FGO Noble Phantasms. Best Noble Phantasms or something. They look so awesome. You can't skip them. And some of them are long. Like, 10 seconds long. Like, really, really long. I never actually timed it. Some of them feel like they're legitimately like 10 seconds long. And in FGO, especially in like the meta of the recent, like FGO's recent meta, where you're basically using double Castoria these days, I guess. It used to be like double Scotty, but double Castoria now. Scotty's old news. You're using double Castoria and you're looping Noble Phantasms, which means you use Noble Phantasms literally every turn. So when you're farming in FGO, you're just watching Noble Phantasms forever, it feels like. Which, on the one hand, man, they look cool. and like I feel like something would be lost if you could skip them. On the other hand, man, you're watching Noble Phantasms for free forever. And I don't know how I feel about it. Because on the one hand, like if they let you skip them, that would make for a way more fluid like player experience for repetitive stuff like farming. But I also feel like if you don't watch Noble Phantasms, you're missing out a really cool part of FGO. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Ogies are the opposite side, where you're like the game lets you skip them effectively by refreshing and stuff. It has a lockout thing, and you're incentivized to skip them. So yeah. Anyways, I believe I triggered Avatar's ultimate, his 10% trigger, whatever it's called. I don't remember what his ultimate's called. Arc Enemy. So this will hit everyone for 99 million. But observe what happens because we use Endymion. Oh, cool. Ultimate attack you have there. Back at it again. So yes, because of Ag's Endymion, we just don't care. We're back. We're ready to roll. We can just finish this guy out. Now, downside, Ars Gloria falls off of everybody because I auto-revived and can't reapply it. But I mean the boss is on 80% health, so it's fine. Yeah, really like Grand Cagliostro. I mean, on the one hand, it'd be nice if like she were good for farming, but honestly, I'm fine that she's for hard contact because if you release a bunch of characters that are good for everything, then like that kind of hurts the diversity of the game, right? Like Holly Narmaya is an example for Earth. She's good for everything. Like you never don't use her in Earth. There's very little reason not to use her. You might even argue that Ranjan is the same, though Ranjan doesn't really bring much utility table besides the... she does have, like, attack down, defense down. Attack down, defense down is nice, but... Yeah, if you have a bunch of characters that are just in every single team, then, like, it does hurt the diversity a little bit, so I'm fine with Cag being more just for hard fights or for soloing. Alright, and with that, we'll close this one out. Kill this guy. There you go. That's what Grand Cag plays like in practice. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Soloing Avatar is no problem with Grand Cag. Let's see what we got. I'll show you drops. I'm sure someone's curious. Hey! two Omega Animus, nice. Alright, after cut, conclusions. See you in a second. But yeah, final thoughts on Grand Cag. Love her. She's very good. She is for hard fights, she is for soloing, she is for places where you benefit from having a defensive character. She's very much like Grand Vera in that way, where Grand Vera, one of the best light characters, but not really a character for farming, not really a character for racing, mostly for hard fights and very specific strategies. Very defensive character. Any of the defensive characters. I would argue Noah, very similar. Noah's another defensive character. Cag has more offensive options than either of those two, I would say. Like she benefits an offensive Ogi team, but she is in that same vein of being more for harder fights. I wouldn't say she's a defensive character because obviously Ars Gloria is a huge offensive buff. It's just for Ogi teams. So in that way, not great for racing. But she is uniquely strong for hard content, and Pinnacle Geometry, if they don't patch it, it's very likely to continue breaking the fights it does break. And then it's very likely as new fights come out that they're gonna be broken by Pinnacle Geometry, by Cagliostro. As I guess is appropriate, I suppose, given how Cag is in lore. I did a video running through Cag's Fate episodes today. So if you want to see that, it's on the channel. Anyways, uh, that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, YouTube stuff. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!